When I got my Wahoo Kickr Bike 10 months ago, it was the first proper bike I'd really sat on since I was a kid. I rode it 3 times and then immediately did a full Sufferfest fitness test on it. And these are the results that I got back then. My 1 hour wattage could be maintained for 155 watts. My 20 minutes, 199 watts. My 5 minute wattage maintained at 235. My 1 minute wattage at 564. And my 5 second wattage at 1260.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
In other words, very explosive, very good for short bursts, but no endurance at all. Insert your own jokes. Now, jumping forward to today, these are my results off of ZWIFT after almost a year of riding pretty regularly on the thing. Now, there's no 1 hour figure shown on the ZWIFT results, but I've climbed Alp to ZWIFT in just under an hour, and it's generally regarded that you need 3.2 watts per kilogram to achieve that, 100 kilograms, so roughly 320 watts. That's a 106% increase on 10 months ago. My best 20 minutes on ZWIFT power is 330 watts, that's up 65%. My 5 minute output, 398 watts, that's up 69%. But my 1 minute output, 656 watts, that's up just 16%, and my 5 second output is 1270, that's only up 10 watts. In other words, what seems to have happened is that I am as explosive and powerful in short bursts as I always was, but I now seem to have some really good endurance to go with it. Who's laughing now? But it does seem rather strange that my sprint power hasn't increased more, especially when you consider that I've been doing quite a lot of sprinting within my races recently. In fact, in the ZWIFT racing league that I ride within, in the absence of being able to compete and go for actual race wins, because I'm not that good, I've been trying to pick up, and have been reasonably good at picking up, sprint points within the races. If you watch this is from a race that I entered recently with a sprint section that I won quite comfortably, but look at my wattage output. Those watts get up to around 1100, and I can hold that fairly comfortably for a good 10 seconds or so before they start to drop off. Now, my wattage on ZWIFT is set to display a 3-second average, so it's not literally my peak output that's shown on screen, but it's going to be pretty close to it, which seems odd, especially when you consider this. This was 1 month after I got the bike, so 9 months ago I did a maximum wattage challenge that I'd seen on Cycling Weekly magazine. After a couple of goes and my kid holding the bike on the floor, I got over 1500 watts. In summary, over the last 10 months, it seems that my endurance has gone way up, but my explosive power, that seems to have hardly changed at all. In fact, it may have even got worse. So today's mission is to find the missing watts. This is my setup. It is a Wahoo Kickr Bike standard, apart from the fact that it is running on a rocker plate. What I'm going to do is log into ZWIFT, and I'm going to go to the Innsbruck circuit because it has a sprint on it that I've done a few times before. This is me doing it just prior to a race that I then went and did on this route. As you can see, I go through the sprint in 17.56 seconds. I get the green jersey, in fact. In the actual race that followed, I ended up getting a 16.9 on that sprint, but that was drafting off other riders and using a drafting boost as well. So we're going to work on the basis that I can comfortably do about a 17.5 second run. Next step is to ride out to the start of the sprint, as I've done now, got warmed up a little bit. I want to set myself a benchmark for today to compare the 3 changes I'm going to make against with my current setup. I could use the 17.4 that I'd already got, but I want to get a comparison against today's conditions. It's cold in here today. In fact, I've only just taken off my gloves. I ran yesterday. I raced on ZWIFT 2 days ago, so my legs are a bit tired. The sprint is just up ahead, so I'm going to turn around to go through it with a bit of a run up. Nice benefit of doing a sprint that I know is I know where I need to start picking up the pace from. So let's get this done. That was terrible. Okay, because that last result was so rubbish, I've gone into the Wahoo app and I've changed the gearing on the bike, so hopefully I can keep my cadence underneath 100 and the wattage up. That last run I was spinning out and no more power to give. Interestingly, although I had a rubbish time, the guy that had a slightly better time than me has obviously left the map because I've now been given the green jersey. Although my time was rubbish, it is currently the fastest on the course, but we can hopefully do better than that. Dog's excited. Interestingly, felt better with the right gearing, but was fractionally slower. So good job I did some benchmark testing, because it seems like today 18.6 is my current quick time. Let's see if the changes will make improvements on that. Change number one, which I think will make the least difference, is the handlebar setup. If it's going to make the least difference, why am I bothering to do it? Because lots of people that have seen me racing on YouTube have said I should be using the drops down here when I'm sprinting. I don't, I sprint up here on the hoods. The reason I do that is because when I go down to the drops, I find them too narrow, so I'm quite broad. And so it feels like my arms are almost sort of coming inwards. Well, they are literally coming inwards to get hold of the bars. And on top of that, my forearm bashes against the top of the bar in a way that's just really uncomfortable. It just doesn't work. So, if in doubt, spend some money. I bought some gravel bars with drops on that are flared out. Not only are these physically just much wider and therefore more, hopefully more comfortable for me to use, the drop flares away from the upper bar. So my hands, instead of being down here and hitting against the upper bar, will be out here somewhere. I think it will make riding more comfortable, but I don't think it will make sprinting any faster. We will see. It's going to take a while. What I could do is a sort of montage of clips of me putting it all together with some wacky YouTube music played over the top. Or I could just think, screw it, and jump straight to the finished product. And putting these on was an awful lot easier than I thought. Now, if any of you have a background in advanced bicycle mechanics, you may have spotted that I've got no bar tape on these as yet. There is a reason for that. I do have bar tape. It is here. It is red and will look sexy as f, but I'm not entirely sure where I want the hoods to go. Because of all the swooping flares on these bars, you can kind of position the hoods at all sorts of weird and wacky angles. So rather than put the tape on and then discover that these aren't quite where I want them, I'm going to ride it for a few days, maybe longer, until I'm 100% certain that the hoods are where I want them to be. Then I will tape the bars up. They are comfortable enough for the purposes of sprinting. Talking of sprinting, while I was doing this, I noticed that my green jersey disappeared. Some cheeky chap has gone through in a 17.8, so gonna have another sprint. I don't think the bars are gonna make that much difference. To be honest, the biggest difference might be that some cheeky chap has beat me, but we will have a go anyway. It certainly feels a much more powerful position down here, but I don't know if that's gonna translate to going quicker. Let's have a go. No real difference in time. It feels good, sort of. It feels wide, powerful. I can really get some leverage down through the bars in a way that I couldn't before. It would be great for climbs, I think. The trouble with putting a lot of power down through it, there's a lot of joining pieces here. The bar, the stem, the down tube, the section here that goes into the frame that allows for adjustment backwards and forwards, And all those pieces mean movement. It feels like I could rip it off. So I didn't feel 100% confident with it, but it's more comfortable. I'm happy enough with it. Bike to eat, and then the changes that I think are going to make the biggest difference. Number one is down here. My bike sits on a rocker plate and I absolutely love it. It makes the ride more realistic, it makes it more fun, and it definitely makes it a lot more comfortable, especially on longer rides. But what does it do to my sprint performance? Before I got it, I was worried that the forces I was putting down through the bike on a sprint were detrimental to the bike. It was making some really strange creaking noises. And I thought that the rocker plate might help absorb that and maybe even sort of rebound them back up into the cycling mechanics. In other words, I thought the rocker plate might make me faster. But I've been doing some reading online and I'm not entirely sure that it is doing that. I have a feeling that, well, it's definitely absorbing energy and I'm not clever enough to know where that energy is then going. Bouncing back up, being transmitted as noise, heat, I've got no idea. All I know is I'm not as fast as I used to be, and it could be because of this. So I'm going to take it off the rocker plate, stick it back on the floor, see what happens. Okay, that might be the easiest modification I'm going to make today. Let's jump on it, minus the rocker, and see if we get off it wearing the right colour jersey. The bad news is I forgot to hit record on the screen. The good news, I got the green jersey back. The bad news, that's because the guy that had it has left. My time was almost exactly the same as previous runs. It made no difference. Last chance to find the missing watts. Are they hiding underneath my shoes? I have cleat adapters on my shoes that let me put the cleat back on the midfoot of the sole, as opposed to this one that I've literally just changed over in the traditional place underneath the ball of the foot more. You can see it is much higher up the shoe. The reason I use the adapter is that I liked the idea. I like the idea of applying force down through a more central part of the foot. A lot of the research I read on it was very positive and I have found it to be good. I don't get as numb in the toes. I find on longer rides it's just more pleasurable. And also when I run with a midfoot landing style, and so I'm very used to that part of the foot being the contact point with the ground. But when I sprint finish on a run, whether it's the end of a park run or an ultramarathon, I don't run on my midfoot. I'm up on my toes like a sprinter would be. And so I'm wondering, if I get up on my toes, can I sprint faster? I hope that's where the missing watts are, because if they're not there, I'm stuck. Okay, here we go, last chance. Wide bar, no rocker plate, up on my toes. Let's see what we can do. No difference, not really. If we assume I'm having an off day, hence my times are about a second off what I know I can do, it's still weird that bars, plate, shoes, none of it makes any real difference. I wonder. Okay, last run of the day, because I'm happy to accept that all the changes I've made make no difference. But I'm not convinced that I am tired enough today. I am tired, but not tired enough to make the 1 second difference between today's runs and what I know I can do. So it got me thinking, what did I do during my last runs a few weeks ago so different to today? And there's two things. First of all, last time round I was either using a draft or a power up. I've had the Aero helmet power up all day today, haven't used it. Going to use that. The other thing I'm going to use, but for copyright reasons, you can't hear. So you have to listen to something else. Echo, play Rocky IV soundtrack. Just one of those days, I guess. Going over the footage from yesterday and a couple of things that if I don't mention, people will ask in the comments. First of all, yes, the bike is making some horrendous noises and a message is into Wahoo support. I'm waiting to hear back. And secondly, yes, I did forget to use the Aero helmet power up in that last run. Would it have made all the difference? Who knows, who cares? Okay, this video has not gone the way I had hoped it would. For a start, I can no longer call it ZWIFT hacks, how I got 500 extra watts. That's not going to work anymore. I suppose it is interesting that all those changes I made didn't actually make that much difference to my time. Literally tenths of a second separated all the runs yesterday. It's also interesting that I went into it feeling okay. I thought I felt quite fresh actually until I got into it and tired very quickly. I actually put my Garmin watch on after I finished the rides and it monitored my stress levels. My body battery has been pretty depleted, pretty stressed out for a good few hours afterwards. My recovery not on point. I'm obviously more drained than I thought I was. Maybe because it's 5:30 in the morning and this thing won't go to sleep. But I now feel like I'm left with one of those useless documentaries, a sort of does the Megalodon still exist type thing where they would drag up Richard Dreyfuss to narrate and then conclude, no, it probably doesn't. Have I actually achieved anything? Well, maybe sleep. Because as I was lying on the floor here yesterday, trying to half recover and half pass out, I said to Jenna, I don't know how to wrap this video up. I normally like to finish on something that is a positive and useful message and then maybe a bit funny. And she said, well, maybe your positive message is, rather than mucking about with all those stupid changes that you made, what you should be telling people to do to get better is just eat well, recover right, and train harder. And I thought, actually, that's not bad. Have you got any funny? She said, yeah. Have you done any jokes about the fact that you're explosive but can't last more than 10 seconds? I said, yeah, right at the beginning. And I even stuck a Vin Diesel clip in. She said, oh, Vin Diesel. I'd have gone with Kelly McGillis in the classroom from Top Gun.
But at its speed, it's too fast. It's a little bit too aggressive.
I said, that's not funny.